My daughter had just graduated from high school, and a graduation present was appropriate, particularly since she just also got accepted into college. As I looked at Ecuador, it seemed relatively safe. There were 10 tourists, a machete man, boy, 17-ish, and the guide. We needed a machete man around because if you weren't on that trail for a week or 10 days, you needed to clear it again. We were out there about 3 hours and beginning our way back, planning to get back around 12:30 or 1 o'clock. I'm bird watching near the back. One other lady from California is camera doing near the back. We got 2 teenagers, including my daughter, who are far to the front. And behind us pops out of the jungle 3 guys. Kind of semi-military looking. They had long pants, but they were bare-chested and they carried weapons. 2 with rifles, 1 with a fairly nasty-looking pistol. They walked right by me, the first 2, and I said, oh, well, they just want to talk to the guy and we'll manage this. But the 3rd guy came up behind us with a pistol and looked at us and said, kind of waved and said, get up there with the rest of them. And we realized, uh-oh, this wasn't looking too good. His knees are beginning to shake. He understands Spanish. I don't. It doesn't look good. Finally, about 15 minutes later, our guide Pablo comes back and said, you know, folks, we have here a kidnapping happening. It doesn't look pleasant at all. They're going to take me as a hostage and 1 other person. And he looked at me and he said, and sir, I'm sorry to tell you, the other person is your daughter, Sarah. Within 20 seconds, Sarah kind of fell to her knees and began choking and coughing and grabbing her throat. And somebody said, looks like she's got an asthma problem or something. And my initial thoughts were to try to calm her down. We can manage this, you can manage this. She growled at me under her breath, shut up, I know what I'm doing. And she continued with this act. And it was at that stage that the guide says, Sarah's got a medical problem here, asthma problem. It doesn't look like she's an appropriate choice here. We've got to find someone else. He looked around the group and said, I don't want to make this choice, so I would like to have a volunteer. That's not the kind of thing everybody wants to volunteer for. There were 10 adults there. I thought, if he doesn't get another volunteer, when he comes back again, I will indicate that I could do this. He looked down the group slowly at everybody, and people were ducking and averting their eyes. I kind of looked at him, and he looked at me, and Sarah's in front of me. She didn't see me, and I nodded my head. He made a deep sigh, and he said, okay, John, I guess you're it. And he reached out his hand and pulled me up, and I was it. The kidnappers found a towel, which they thought distinctive, and they said, use this as a signal. Don't have any law enforcement folks with you, no police. There were a lot of frightful goodbyes and hugging. And we went down the trail around the bend about 100 feet, and then we cut right into the woods, into the jungle. We weren't tied up, but we had nowhere we could go. You can't run away in a jungle like that. Food was scarce when we started. These guys had nothing but water and a couple of big chunks of raw brown cane sugar type stuff. One of the first things they did is shot about a 45-pound monkey. I'm never going to cook that and put it in soup. It's not an experience one looks forward to or one ever anticipates being involved in. About an hour after Pablo left, about 7 p.m., very dark, dusky, this first kidnapper, the leader, came back. He has seen people who wanted to negotiate, but there were police among them. The towel was there. He didn't trust making contact under those circumstances, so they realized they would have to wait and try again later. At that stage, we left that area and began hiking and looking for a new area. The area they selected was down a ravine and under a lot of brush that was almost impossible to pass through. I took the little rain jacket I had been given by somebody and wrapped a log in it, about 4 feet long, and put it in the hammock. I set it up, made it look like I was there. They were far enough away they couldn't hear because of the rain. I got down on my knees and on my belly, and I used my elbows, and I worked my way through that shrubbery and brambles, and got into a clearing where I could see the top of this rise where I knew we'd come 5 days before. I ran up the rise to the top, and I'm heading out, and I hear a yell. I dive down into the shrubbery someplace about 50 feet away, hoping that I will not be detected, and know somebody found me and detected me and came up to me. He's not somebody I recognize. Turns out he was a trail guard watching the trail for other people coming through. They put me down near the floorboards and put a blanket over me, and they drove me a long distance. I was told they were taking me to Colombia. They definitely discussed killing me. They decided that I was still worth considerable money and the negotiations could proceed. They moved me around in 2 or 3 locations and finally to a house in an obviously wet area on stilts at the 2nd story level. And I was kept there for some time near the outskirts of a town. I was sleeping. The people in the other room were sleeping. All of a sudden I'm hearing yelling and stomping and screaming and somebody's running up the stairs to the 2nd story of this shack. Then I hear gunfire, and there's a lot of gunfire. It goes on rapidly for a minute, and then it tails off, and there's a couple of stray shots. It appears some military types are out there. And somebody comes into my room and in a military outfit with camouflage things on and says, "John?" I said, "Yes." And he says, "We're here to take you away. Congratulations." And he gives me a hug, and I'm happy. There wasn't a ransom paid. They had successfully figured out where I was being held and performed a precision assault to get me out. Last Friday, I was on a plane out of Ecuador, and I'm home. I'm lost 20 pounds. Not perfectly well, but you can see I'm standing and moving. It's been probably a psychologically tough experience. I have yet to understand that fully, of course. I survived because I was lucky. Because despite the fact that there was gunfire and danger there, most of those people were not interested in my death. They were interested in what I was worth.